what you gonna do? Yeah. Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys, what you gonna do? What you gonna do when they come for you? When you were 8 and you had bad traits, you go to school and learn the golden rule. So why are you acting like a bloody fool? If you get hot, then you must get cool. Bad boys, bad.
Good evening, West Boylston. My name is Rich Zamorano, and we're back at Community Matters. And I'm here with my very special guest, Police Chief DennisMinnich. And hi.
Hi. Good morning. How are you?
We were just talking before we started rolling that we're just goofy people. Yeah. That's basically the whole interview, folks. So thank you for showing up. But that's all we have to say. It's definitely a good guy curse, like I started saying that. You don't take life so seriously because there's a lot of heartache. Obviously,
Sure.
I have to imagine doing what you do and dealing with the people that you have to deal with on a regular basis. There has to be some moment of just, okay, that's that, and this is life, and
Sure.
you definitely have to be able to have some peace at the end of the day.
Yeah, I mean, even throughout the day, you find
Yeah.
little happy spots that you can be in.
You do.
That it's not necessarily a lot of heartaches. There are heartaches throughout the day or throughout the career or your life, but I try not to dwell on heartaches because for every heartache, there's probably 20 or 30 or 40 happy things that happen that you can make a difference. But there are heartaches, and you can't pretend that there isn't, or that's what eats you up.
Most people, though, they fixate on the horror, the issues or whatever. So I think it's obviously to every person's benefit, but especially people in your line of profession, to be able to just take it as it is and not blow those things up bigger than just what it is. There are bad people out there. They do bad things, and you need to do the best you can to not only protect yourself first and foremost. I'm glad that you guys are working smart out there, but also protecting the community at large, so to speak. So.
Yeah, it's funny because I always want someone to walk up to me instead of saying, I heard there was a house break, or that was a horrible accident, or did you see how that person died, or we had a shooting. It's like it'd be nice to be able to talk to someone and say, the Little League parade yesterday, for example, it was beautiful. Nothing bad about it. Things line up. It's happy. You see the kids having fun. They're with their moms or dads or grandparents. It's a happy thing.
Well, it seems like it's because of your profession. Like if you were a doctor, people would be coming up and go, "Can you check this thing over here? I've got this pussy wound over here."
I do that too.
So I think unfortunately because of your status and obviously you're the chief, so I think people are more apt to approach you about the doom and gloom type of things, and I can imagine that is disheartening after a while.
It's one of those things like when you walk up and talk to a child or something and they fixate on your gun or something.
Look at
everybody does that.
Every single person does. I've been eyeing it the whole time we've been sitting here.
Is it leaking? Because I filled it up with water this morning. People think
I don't want to let anyone know that's really what you're doing. You're packing water guns.
It's a water pistol.
Yeah,
it's a warning. It's a warning.
Yeah. That's not a good thing. Let's get back to the basic stuff.
Sure.
Where were you born?
I was born in Harrisburg, Pennsylvania.
Wow.
All my immediate family, my mom, my dad, all my grandparents, my brother, my sister, were all born in Pennsylvania.
See now I'm usually good at picking out accents and whatever. I don't hear that Pennsylvania thing.
Yeah.
So wow.
Well, I moved to Massachusetts when I was 14.
Oh, okay.
My sister was older. She was probably.
How many siblings did you have then?
I have 3, one of each.
Okay.
No, I have an older sister and a younger brother. And when we moved to Massachusetts, my sister was a little bit older, so she kept the Pennsylvania accent a little bit more than I did. And my younger brother, you probably couldn't tell we were from Pennsylvania.
Now your whole genus has been from Pennsylvania. What migrated you folks up north then?
My father worked for a company named Western Electric in Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah.
And he was offered a job at Digital Equipment Corporation. which was a promotion and a better job for the family, better thing for the family. So he made a decision with my mother to move to Massachusetts, and we've been here since 1978.
Wow,
that's the year we moved. So.
Yeah. Well, you were tickled pink to move when you were 14 years old. I can only imagine as a teenager. You probably you're probably hemmed and hawed all the way.
It was tough. I want to be able to do that for my son. I want to wait till he's 14 and then move him. It was. I think it made me a much more outgoing person.
Yeah.
I think it does the opposite to some people where they close in. But it's a tough time to move. I mean, it's tough to move. I mean, I didn't know anybody in Massachusetts.
No relatives in this area at all?
No relatives in the area.
Wow.
I didn't know anybody. Like I said, my brother was a little younger. My sister was getting ready to graduate. Yeah. So that was tough for her too. But we integrated and we started going to a church and did the youth things and. We moved from a small neighborhood to a pretty big neighborhood in Shrewsbury. Yeah. So we got to know a lot of people, and when I look back, it was a good thing, but it was a very hard thing to do.
Oh yeah.
Not that I had a choice, but
now that Harrisburg down in Pennsylvania, that's not that far away from the Pennsylvania Dutch area, right? Is that?
No, it's right there. The Amish country, Lancaster. Pennsylvania is a huge mecca of Pennsylvania.
It's beautiful country down there. I mean, I married a woman from California, and she comments as well as her family when they come out to the East Coast, especially Massachusetts, how green everything is and how lush everything is in the rolling hills and whatever. And I was really impressed. I'd taken the family down there through Pennsylvania a few years back. And just beautiful. I mean, you can smell the earth down there.
It's gorgeous. Really, I mean, you got Gettysburg. You have TMI.
Yeah.
A landmark. You have the Amish country, and you drive for hours, and it's thousands of acres of farms, and it is. It's and you got
but you have the hills too, which anyone that's ever driven cross country, once you can get past the big block of 2,000 miles in the middle of the United States just flat cornfield and soy field and whatever, then you start getting into the hills. It's like, okay, now I'm in reality.
Again. You're home again. Yeah. I don't think I could. I don't think I like the flat, just all flat. I love the mountains.
Yeah, I can't deal with flat. Yeah. Well, you ever see the movie North by Northwest with Cary Grant? It was Alfred Hitchcock. There's a scene in it where there's a biplane or whatever coming down, and I think it was a crop dusting plane or whatever, but it comes down and dive bombs at Cary Grant, and he's got nowhere to go. He's in a big, he's in the Midwest somewhere, big open field. He's got nowhere to get away from this thing. So I don't like anything sweeping out of the sky being able to take me.
Anyway, you need a mountain to hide in.
If I can help it, anyways. But so you must have graduated at some point in time, moving up through. You graduated from Shrewsbury schools then?
I actually it was an odd thing. We moved from Pennsylvania to Shrewsbury. Mm-hmm. We ended up moving back to Harrisburg for a while, and then after that, in the summer before my senior year, actually we moved to a different place in Harrisburg. So I was in a different school again.
Oh my goodness!
And then at the end of my 11th grade, we moved to Berlin, Mass, back from Pennsylvania again. Yeah. So the summer before my senior year of high school, we had moved again. So I ended up graduating. I went to Shrewsbury Middle School. Then I went to middle schools in Pennsylvania, and then I graduated from Tohoto my senior year.
Yeah, oh my goodness.
So that was yet a different thing.
Yeah, you were definitely put through the paces.
Almost like a military kid.
At some point in time, you really needed to find some type of focus as far as what your life was going to be about. And I can only imagine bouncing between living places and schooling places, whatever. How did you ever get a focus on what you would like to be?
I wanted to open a moving company.
Well, that would have been that would have been much more appropriate. In fact, when we get out of here, I've got a couch that's been out in my garage. I'd like to move.
It gave me a different perspective. One of the schools in Pennsylvania, I had 500 people in my class that I was supposed to graduate with. Mm-hmm. When I moved to Berlin, it was Berlin-Boylston. We had 49. I think we had like 51 or 52, but like 49 graduated. I was one of them. Mm. But it just gives you different perspectives of where you live and how many people. Like, I was actually not a target, but a lot of people were interested in where I came from and stuff because I was the new kid in the class in the senior year. So it almost helped to go to a smaller school because people were saying, "Who's this guy Dennis and where are you from?" And
I think once you got to your senior year, people weren't all about, "Oh, hey, you're not a town person. What are you doing around here?" And they all kind of wanted. The advantage of growing up in West Boylston and graduating from West Boylston High School, I only had 66 kids in my graduating class, and thank goodness you employ a few of them. But you basically knew everybody. You knew everybody. You knew everybody's brother. You knew their family. You knew all the secrets and all there's definitely an advantage to that because you do have a sense that you belong somewhere or whatever. Right. And I think the experience of having a small school graduation like that, I think it does bond you to that feeling of small town, really caring about your neighbor. I think that's the disadvantage, unfortunately, with people that live in bigger cities. Even Worcester, even though Worcester's not that big, everybody minds their own business.
Right.
I lived in Worcester for about 6 years after I got married. I knew maybe my neighbor on my right or on my left, but I didn't know that many other people further past that on my own street.
And it helps.
Let alone,
It does help to know, have different parents know who you are and who your parents are, or who you're being raised by, because, if you're getting into something that you shouldn't be getting into, they can say, "Hey, Rich, hey, what are you doing?" Or call your mom or dad or whoever.
Yeah, there's plenty of people that'll tattle on you. Well, growing up in Worcester and coming from an Italian family, that was the last thing you wanted. If a neighbor had to call your house and tell your parents, "Hey, I saw your son and he was throwing rocks at my this or that," and, oh my goodness, that was the worst. That was the worst because you got that public shame that most people don't like, and then you got the good side of it when you got home. So it was hard. So eventually you moved past then
moved past
the Berlin experience.
Right.
Did you go to college or something right after that, or?
I started working at Digital Equipment. I got a job there as basically.
Did you know somebody that worked there, and that's
how
you got the job there?
And his name wasn't Dennis Minnich either.
No.
They had a program that was like full-time employment, but you were contracted.
Yeah.
So I started driving a shuttle van. I worked at the old mill. They call it the old mill where Digital started in Maynard. Yeah. Then I started to drive a little bit more as a chauffeur. And then from my adopted mother from Boylston, who used to be a full-time police dispatcher, she got me interested in that. So as I went to Wachusett Community College, not Wachusett Community College, I went for criminal justice. And as I was doing that, I started dispatching for the Boylston Police Department. And I was the first, I started part-time, and then I was the first full-time dispatcher that actually dispatched out of the police station. And it was kind of funny because I was a part-time officer as well, and you would drive down a back road and you would see the person that's dispatching for the police department out hanging up the laundry. And they would have a phone that would ring outside, or the speaker would be outside. So as you would drive by in a police car, like Martha Johnson was one of the dispatchers, you could actually see them out doing work as they dispatched. So if you would, they don't know this, but as I would drive by, if I saw them outside, I would call in and make them go inside, and then I'd say disregard, just to get the goat a little bit.
Yeah.
But so I was the first full-time dispatcher in the police station, and then under Chief Frank Sleeper in Boylston, and then I went full-time in Boylston as a full-time officer.
Now you must have had to go to an academy.
I went to the police academy. I went to the Reserve Police Academy as I was a dispatcher.
Where do they do that?
That was in, let me see, where did I go to the Reserve Academy? I believe that was at, wow, it's so many years ago.
Yeah.
I don't even remember.
Oh, goodness.
Can you believe that?
But I'm sure you did.
I went to the Reserve Police Academy, and then I was hired full-time as a police officer, and then I went to the Worcester Police Academy full-time for 26 weeks.
Yep.
And then that's when I worked in Boylston full-time. So I stopped being a dispatcher, went to police officer full-time.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I went to Mount Wachusett Community College to get my associates. Then in 1992, I was hired by Mike McAuliffe, Chief Mike McAuliffe, in 1992 and came to West Boylston.
Yeah.
And then I continued on and got my degree out of Anna Maria College in criminal justice.
Criminal justice.
Yes.
Did you minor as well, or?
No.
No, just criminal, just straight criminal justice.
Straight criminal justice.
I was a criminal justice major myself, and I hated the sociology classes that they put you through, because I guess they're designed to help you understand how we interact with each other and all the rest of that stuff. But the teachers I had, the last teacher I had for the subject was an older judge from town, Jablonski. I'm not sure if he's still around with us or whatever, but he was a little long-winded, and a lot of times he wasn't on topic. So I remember watching the clock one night, and it was maybe 45 minutes he talked about his dogs.
Sure.
And I'm like, this got nothing to do with what we're talking about.
With criminal justice,
I really don't want to do this anymore. So,
yeah.
So you experienced the whole college thing while working in as well, first in Berlin, but then you came here. What year did you come here then?
1992.
Okay.
So from 1986 to 1992, I did the whole gamut from part-time dispatcher to full-time dispatcher, part-time police officer, full-time police officer, became a detective patrolman, which I could do some investigations and patrol. And then I was hired in 1992 and came to West Boylston, started over again as an officer.
I'm doing the math right now.
20 years ago.
Between 92 and 96, I'm sure you met somebody, right? Didn't you meet?
I'm trying to think.
I'm pretty certain you met somebody right
Chief
along that time.
McAuliffe.
You probably met that guy, yeah. But I'm pretty certain you met.
I did.
Maybe you met her a little bit earlier than that. But I know it's right in there. I'm doing my math in my head.
I did meet a local resident in town.
And helped her put out her laundry. Is that was
yes, she was a dispatcher too.
A Boylston thing.
No, yeah, I did, and she was. Her whole family grew up in West Boylston.
Oh wow!
So she still has aunts and uncles that. Grew up in town, had little farm stands in town. I just learned because my son, who's 10 now, Dennis Jr.
Goodness gracious.
10.
I know.
I shouldn't say that. At 10, he's this tall to me.
I can't believe it's already been 10 years.
Yeah, 10 years.
Yeah.
But I can't stop talking about him.
Yeah.
But her great-grandfather helped build the reservoir. He came from Italy through Ellis Island, came here, moved to town. His son, Tom Delasanta, actually still lives in the house on Woodland Street. Well, excuse me, he recently passed, but they all grew up in the house on Woodland Street. So, yeah, and then in 2001, after I was married to Pat Delasanta, we had my son, Dennis Jr., and happily ever after.
Yeah.
He's doing very good.
So how many years married now?
I'm trying to do the math. 15 years. Yep. Yep.
Yeah. My wife and I's 15th year anniversary actually too.
Now, how do you know all this? Were you involved in the wedding or anything?
I do recall a beautiful, and in fact I use it when I talk to people about some of the most perfect weddings I've ever done. I disc jockey, as you may know,
right.
And I did this beautiful wedding at Sturbridge Country, Village. Right. That's the place, whatever. And just a beautiful, the setting was beautiful, the food was incredible, but the attitude of the wedding, and I've done hundreds and hundreds of weddings, and I tell people this all the time, the attitude of the wedding and the sensitivity and the caring of not only the bride and groom. Bride and groom obviously are in love. They're they're silly like that, but the people that were in attendance were all so grateful to share that celebration, and it's one of my, not just because I know you and whatever. It was definitely one of my favorite weddings that I've done ever.
It's a neat place. It's a cool place
because of the dynamics of of everything that worked together. So so I was there. In fact, you probably have me to blame. I'm sure if I'm sure if I did something different, your life would be a total. You'd be back to moving things and
moving vans, right? Yeah.
Shuttling and stuff like that.
Right.
So many years married now, and you're a cop in '96 here in West Boylston. What changed? What moved you into?
Well, it's a good story, but it's a sad story. I came here in 1992. In 1996, I got married, and then in 1997 we had the sergeant's exam. And what happened was Lieutenant LeQueer, it was Chief Mike McAuliffe and Lieutenant LeQueer. Mike McAuliffe went to the FBI. So what the union in the town decided to do is, instead of having a lieutenant's position when Al LeQueer became the acting chief, they changed it to having 4 sergeants instead of 3. And one of the sergeants was retiring, so what we did was we had a sergeant's exam. And that was in 1997, around May of 1997. So I happened to score the highest, so I was promoted first, and then Jimmy Bartlett was an officer. We both took the test together. He was promoted to sergeant as well. Shortly thereafter, Al LeQueer, who was the chief, in August of 1997, had a massive heart attack. So I was asked to become the interim chief. So I had been the sergeant for just a very short amount of time, but that's what catapulted me into the chief's realm. So there was 4 sergeants, and 2 were towards the end of their career, and then there was myself and Sergeant Bartlett.
Did you find it a hard transition? Was it something that was good and terrifying at the same time?
It was, because I had the full support of the police department, which you need. Because I've obviously was never chief before, and there's a lot of things that you don't think about as a sergeant even, or an officer, that the chief has to think about. But all the officers, the sergeants, made it really nice for me. The town supported me. I remember going when my son was born, you were going like this, like they had a little, they used a fake baby, but they had a little baby shower for me. And, the town really rallied and helped me out. They helped me out a lot. I'd have never made it as chief if I didn't have all the support from my administrative assistant back then was Maggie Roddy. And I always give the kudos to the administrative assistants, because they do so much work, and people don't realize what goes on behind the scenes when they're working. And the officers, if you don't have the support from the community and your officers, you're not going to make it. And I look at it, if I didn't have the support of the community, why would I even want to be here? Because if they don't support you, obviously there's some wrong dynamic there. Well, some people would just, we talked about it earlier, just be comfortable in their job, and whether they don't have to make any waves, and they just kind of sit behind their desk or whatever. And you're obviously not a guy like that. No, not at all.
You want to be. I can't imagine anyone that lives in West Boylston that hasn't actually met you, because you're extremely approachable. And I've talked about this actually with Leon, the town administrator, and with Beth Shaper, the superintendent of schools. They're very approachable people, and they're very pliable people. That they're willing to listen to suggestions, take criticisms, and really build on that to try to make the best decisions that they can make for this town, and really not even so much for themselves, and that's what I admire so much about them, and obviously what I really admire about you, that you're not I think as chief you get stuck in this political position.
Some people
often.
try to get you stuck there.
And it's not where your strength comes from. You obviously are a man of your own personality and convictions, but you stave off those pressures very well, actually. I've noticed.
I don't get into politics. I don't. If a selectman would approach me, I look at them as anybody else in town. If the town administrator talks to me about something, we talk as man to man. I don't put anybody on a pedestal. Hopefully, no one puts me on a pedestal. I don't think that's proper. I mean, you have your proper times when it's going to be chief or whatever, but I'm just as soon as I meet someone, when I tell them to call the police station, I always say, just ask for Dennis. I'm the only Dennis there.
Yeah.
I was just at Chiefs in Service training, and a lady said, I heard you like to be called Dennis the Menace. I said, well, it's not that I like to be called that. Maybe I earned that, but you know, I think especially the younger people that are growing up in town. I was just directing traffic at 12 and 140 at the Little League Parade yesterday, and a boy went by on a skateboard, and I just asked him to stop for a minute and talk to him for a while, and he was like, you're the police chief?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm the police chief, but my name's Dennis, and I was asking him where they ride skateboards because they're thrown out of a lot of different places, and had a very nice 20-minute talk with him.
Yeah.
And it was kind of neat. I like to do that. I like to talk to people and get their perspective, and especially the kids, like, you know, how do you perceive the police as opposed to, you know, I'd rather have them walk up to me and say hi than, you know, look over and say, oh, the police are here.
Yeah, the chief's here.
Yeah, the chief's here. Something's wrong. You know,
Yeah.
we're in trouble or something.
Well, you know, giving that positive role model out there is something that, like we were talking about earlier, it's only the doom and gloom stuff that people really like to latch onto. Right. And I know people, especially people that have had past dealings with the law, favorably or unfavorably or whatever. Right. Oh, you know, he's a badge and a gun, and that's all they were all about and whatever. And to actually have someone that lives and breathes being a person first, you know, is something that just it's so necessary, especially in a small town. But I think universally, you know, that we need to be able to trust our the people that are in authority over us and that are in charge of our safety and our well-being. You know. Right. It's extremely important.
I would even like someone that we've arrested or had, you know, a negative dealing with from their perspective as far as getting, you know, in trouble with the law, that they could look back and look at the police department and say, you know, I was treated fairly. Yeah. You know, I wasn't sworn at. You know, they treated me with respect. And I say to everybody, everybody's on a level playing field. Now, if you try to punch me in the face, then you went down a notch. So, you know, you're going to use that, and you don't want to let your guard down. But, you know, you got to treat people the way you want to be treated, you know?
Well, what do you feel like, I know we're running close to the end of time here. Sure. What do you feel like the biggest challenges are now, not only for your job, but for our town and in general, if you want to get a little political, but especially we'll stick with just, you know, your position. What are some of your biggest challenges today?
Well, from my position, I feel like I'm supported by the community through the budget process, through the equipment that we have, through the manpower. Of course, I'd like to have additional training funds, and, you know, there's always more that I could do if I had more funds, but we try to do what we can with the funds we have and make do. Yeah. Our biggest obstacle right now is the actual physical facility that we work out of. Yeah. It's very, very tough. I just had a sergeant injured the other day. When you drive by the police fire station, it probably doesn't look so bad to people that doesn't know how it's laid out and what's inside. But I mean, I have a detective that's literally in a closet that is working out of a closet. Our booking room is very dangerous. You pull into the garage, you have to get a prisoner out of the car in the garage and then walk them into yet another room that's very, very small. They're actually handcuffed to a railing on the wall, and a lot of the people we deal with are, you know, either mentally not there because of drugs, alcohol. You know, there's usually issues with intoxication, or they just been through a bad time with something, and now you're handcuffing them to a wall. There's a $10,000 piece of computer equipment 3 feet from them. Yeah. You got all this sophisticated equipment, breathalyzers and the computer, and, you know, you're this close to an officer. So it's a very, very bad situation.
I know a lot of people, especially when you start talking about budget and whatever, they'll go, oh, you know, oh, they always want a new this, or they always want a new car, they want a new yeah. But when you start talking about safety issues and the fact that, like you said, equipment that's around that can be broken, well, let's stop talking about the money side of it and let's start talking about these things are real issues right now. Right. That you know, yes, the budget is what the budget is, and yeah, we all need to work properly, but you know, you obviously can't put a price tag on the safety. Right. Some officer gets hurt, or God forbid, some a person that you're arresting is not able to survive the booking process or whatever, for one reason or another, that something happens. I'm passionate about that myself. That we just need to do things. I'm a smarter, do things smarter than harder.
Right.
And
that's the thing. I've never stood up at a town meeting or a selectmen's meeting and said, I want a new police station. I think we need a change in our facility, maybe expand it. But it is for the safety not only of the officers, which is my first major concern, because if they're hurt, nothing works, but the person that we're dealing with. And it could be someone that comes in as a victim. We don't have, we could have a victim of a rape or a domestic violence or child abuse or something like that, and they come in and they're in a public lobby. We don't have any proper place to interview them. You bring in the bad guys in through the same area that we have people that really need the assistance. And I fully understand our economy, that I understand people don't have jobs, everything's going up, their pay might stay the same, or they get money taken away from them or benefits or something. So I'm not pushing for that end of it. I like the DPW building. Someone threw that out one time. It's like I go back to the old mill in Maynard. It's a beautiful old building, just like barns. I hate to see them torn down. So I'm not looking for a Taj Mahal. I don't even want that. I just want a safe place that we can serve the town and do our job.
I mean, you definitely need to be able to do it properly. And I think there are some of us in town, I've lived here a very long time, some of us in town that don't even realize that you deal with rapists and drug offenders and the filth of what any other city or town would ever go through. But I just for me, just coming me personally, it's almost like because I don't know about it, it's not really happening. I think there might be a majority of our viewers out there that just don't even realize that. You have dangerous people that obviously that come through your building, and if it's not properly set up to handle and deal with them a proper way, God forbid what could happen just because we didn't have the budget to make a separate entrance, to make a wider entry, to God forbid get the poor detective out of the closet. Give these people a fighting chance to do what they do, which is protect us.
It's interesting. We do the license to carry process in the booking room. And when people come, a lot of people in town have licenses to carry, and we process an awful lot of those, and that's where they have to go in the booking room. And we get an awful lot of reactions where people come in a certain entrance, and then they have to go down into the parking lot and walk through the garage, and then they go into the room where their photograph is taken in their process, and they look around and say, this is the police station, this is where you book prisoners. Until you see something or go through it, it's you don't see it, you're not there, you're not involved,
Well,
it's like it's not there.
Everything we do as far as law enforcement now post 9/11, I think people are much more aware of the dangers and things that go on out there, and to purposely put ourselves in vulnerable situations is obviously something that we can't we can't tolerate. So I'm definitely on board, and definitely something that we need to push. I think desperately.
I agree.
Very nice meeting you, seeing you here.
It's good to see you again. It's very nice to see you. Yeah.
I want to thank you all for hanging out with us. My name is Richard Simorano. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time.
You're too bad. You're too rude. You're too bad. You're too rude. Yeah. Bad boys. What you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? Bad boys. What you gonna do? Or what you gonna do when they come for you? You chuck it on that one, you chuck it on this one, you chuck it on your mother and you chuck it on your father, you chuck it on your brother and you chuck it on your sister, you chuck it on